Game over, man. Game over.
Johnny. You're gonna need a bigger boat. So serious.
I am Iron Man.
This is a tasty burger.
Welcome to the InSession Film Podcast.
Welcome to episode 658 for October 14th, 2025, and I'm JD Duran.
And I'm Brennan Cassidy.
Hey, thanks for joining us, everybody, for this week's episode. It's going to be a fun one, as always. Because it is mid-October, I do need to start off this episode here by saying, one, a happy birthday to my brother, who celebrated a birthday over the weekend, which was really fun.
Happy birthday.
I'm going to Michigan at the end of the month, so I am going to get to see him. It's been a minute.
Good stuff, man.
So I'm very excited to go home and celebrate family here in a little bit. But a happy birthday to my brother. And then also, coming up this weekend, happy birthdays to both my wife and my firstborn child, as they are back-to-back on the 17th and 18th.
I always forget about that. I always forget if they are the exact same date or if they're one day apart.
Yeah,
but that's awesome.
It was close.
Together.
It was close.
So,
yeah.
So same astro sign at the very least.
Yep. Sam was, I want to say, due the 15th. It was something like that. I do know he was a few days late. And we did kind of contemplate, thought it would be funny if they did end up celebrating the same day. If he came the same
sure,
day.
man. For sure.
But then I think we had scheduled for him to be induced on the 17th.
Okay.
And then he came naturally. We didn't even get to the inducement before we left for the hospital. She broke, and off to the hospital we went.
Must have heard those conversations like, nope, I'm coming on my own terms. And given the energy of that kid, I could see that kind of mentality being the case. He seems like very much a child that's, I'm my own man. I want to grow up to be my own man. I make my own decisions.
Well, speaking of chaos energy, so what's really funny about that, the day that Sam was born, and this is probably not going to make any sense to a lot of listeners out there, but I'll try to provide some context quickly. Okay. But the day Sam was born, it was a Saturday afternoon. And while the wife is going through the process, if you will, in the background, and I asked for permission. I got permission. I did not do this on my own, so don't yell at me. We had college football playing on the TV.
You knew it was going to be college football related.
As she's going through the process. And my wife is also a huge college football fan. So again, I don't want it to look like I'm selfishly.
He can sympathize.
Yes, I am in the moment with her. But we have the Michigan State game on as Sam is, well, he's not being born yet, but she's going through the process. Right. Once he starts to come, the TV does go off. Again, I want it to be known that I was in the moment. But
she's not pushing and you're just watching whatever plays.
Yes, it wasn't one of those situations, I promise. Once
it's like, he's one of these boys. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. Once it got intense, I turned off the game. Then Sam was born. It was this magical moment. It was great. It was glorious. We go to the back room and he feeds, or he's starting to feed for the first time. We're changing him. By this time, it's getting close to the end of the game. I hadn't watched for a while. I missed pretty much the entire second half.
I was going to say, you had to have at least missed 2 quarters.
I missed a lot of it. Yeah, I missed a lot of it to that point. However, I get to the end of the game. College football fans, you'll know this. This is the infamous Michigan State blocks the punt on the last play of the game. They take it to the end zone and they score. It was a game that Michigan would have won if not for this botched punt that has gone on to live in college football lore, in college football infamy. And for years and years and years, you would see this replay of Michigan State blocking this punt, scooping it up, and taking it for a touchdown to win the game. They were down. They were down by like 3 points, and they won the game on this blocked punt. And I am on the phone with my brother as this is happening. I'm trying to celebrate the birth of my son, and Michigan loses in this historic, awful way. So that day is forever associated also with the birth of my son.
I mean, if there ever was a metaphor for childbirth, it's a blocked football punt.
Like crazy. It was total chaos. And look, on any other day, I would have been devastated. Thankfully, Sam being born that day, it did not ruin my day by any.
Yeah, thankfully
nothing
it was a good thing.
Going to ruin
thankfully
that day.
It was a good thing.
Yes. So in a way, Sam being born on that day kept me from killing myself, because good Lord, that would have absolutely devastated me. But
so I guess the moral of the story is, if you're a college football fan, make sure you plan the birth of your first child around some big game
that they're going to lose, that your team is going to lose. Make sure they're born on the worst loss possible.
Prepared for whatever bad things could potentially happen.
Exactly.
Oh man, should have thought of that before Penn State got into a big rut this season.
Yeah, exactly. Should have waited. But so I should have known then that Sam was going to bring the chaos energy to the house.
Because he was surrounded by chaos energy.
Yeah, he certainly lived up to it.
That makes sense.
At any rate, happy birthday to my wife and Sam, and to my brother, and to my dog Dakota. Lots of birthdays going on. Lots and lots of birthdays happening at the moment.
It's a good time.
It's a good time. All right. For this week's show, we have some fun things lined up. We have a fun top 5 that we're going to get into. It's a topic that we haven't really discussed here on the show. Perhaps some variation of it, but we haven't done this exact top 5. With Good Fortune coming out this weekend, we thought it would be fun to talk about our top 5 performances by comedians.
Yeah.
And I very much look forward to getting, because this is a rich topic.
This is an interesting one.
Great performances by comedians. So
yeah,
I very much look forward to getting into that. That will be the back half of this week's show. Let's start off the show by talking about everyone's new favorite movie, Tron Ares. We all love this movie, and we were all rooting for its success. And by all, I certainly do not mean Brendan and I.
I think you at least mean your son, but that's maybe most
Sam
of the population.
Loved the movie. Yeah,
Sam
loved the movie.
He quite liked it.
Our good friend Brant Allen really loved it. He reached out to us on our Facebook page to disagree with us, and I loved his comment. We do not see eye to eye on Tron Ares, but he made some fun arguments in his case.
Absolutely.
I do think a lot of Tron Ares will simply come down to, are you a Tron head or are you not?
Or specifically, are you a Tron legacy head or are you not?
Yes, maybe even more specifically that. Brent is not a huge fan of Tron Legacy or a big fan of that franchise. Sam had seen Tron Legacy, but he's also 9 on the verge of 10. So
right.
I don't know if he really, he just loves everything that he sees. But generally, I do feel like Tron Ares is a movie that you'll enjoy if you really have no association with this franchise. You don't really care about context or continuity. If you just go in open-minded in that regard, I perhaps there's much more fun to be had. But I am a Tron Legacy head. I freaking love that movie. I think it slaps. So I was deeply disappointed by Ares. And I also don't think the new stuff works very well on its own terms.
Yeah.
So I don't think it works great as a sequel. It doesn't work great as a reboot. I don't think it works really at all. It is one of the worst movies of the year. We did have a fun conversation around that film with the great Megan Laux. Who joined us for that conversation. If you want to go and check out that review, it is available right now on your podcast app of choice. Spoiler alert, though, we were not kind to it.
No,
not huge
we,
fans.
we used words that we don't like to use when reviewing movies.
Typically avoid them.
We typically avoid words like hate or dumb or stupid. In fact, correct me if I'm wrong, JD. I think this might be the only movie so far this year that we've reviewed where we used said terms. Maybe The Monkey was the only other one. But we rarely get that cynical or that negative.
Yeah, try to avoid that if at all possible, but was hard for me to avoid it in that case. I do think Tron Ares, the approach to it fundamentally is incredibly obtuse. I
agree.
I do not like what they were trying to accomplish with that film. However, not here to review Tron Ares once again, but I did want to bring it up to let people know that review is out if they want to go and check it out. But also, I wanted to note this as well. Regardless of how I felt about Tron Ares, the movie itself, I was rooting for its success because I want whatever the next movie is going to be, because seemingly it is going to involve the characters that Tron Ares should have been surrounded by.
Sam and Cora, I believe.
Sam and Cora specifically. Yeah. So if we do get a sequel to Tron Ares, it's going to involve them in some major way. So I needed Ares to be good or successful, maybe not good, but I needed it to succeed financially to incentivize Disney to make the next one. It does not seem as if that's going to be the case because a $33 million domestic opening, currently worldwide, it is sitting at $63.5 million, which is not good. The budget for this was around 180 plus marketing.
Yeah.
So it needs to do north of 360, close to $400 million to be successful. You're a long way away from that. And the word of mouth is not good.
No, it's not going to carry it. That's not going to carry it. Tron Legacy, back when that first came out, wasn't necessarily a big box office hit either. I think it grossed a total of $400 million on top of a budget of 170. So it was not a box office hit, even though it seems to be doing better numbers than Tron Ares was doing. With that said, maybe that still signifies that there's potential hope for yet another Tron sequel, maybe 15 years down the line, because these are not really movies that are ever profitable. It's given the cult-like fandom of it. I think the thing that's going to hurt Tron Ares specifically, and any momentum of a future sequel with this franchise, mostly comes down to the narrative of how Disney is just fumbling their big budget movies. And I think, if anything, the timing of when this movie has come out and the circumstances around how movies are doing at the box office this year and in recent years, and how the mid-budget movies are the ones that are actually succeeding more so than the big budget movies, that precedent, I think, is actually going to be the thing that hurts Tron Ares the most and the future of this franchise. And that's unfortunate, because I do think there was room to play with this franchise a little bit more that Tron Ares just did not do. So that is unfortunate.
Yeah, the franchise itself is so fascinating to me from a financial perspective.
Yeah.
I think it's a fascinating idea. I love the lore and the aesthetics that surround Tron as a franchise.
Yeah.
But Disney keeps going back to this well, and I'm not exactly sure why, honestly. I'm grateful they are, because I am a fan of the franchise. But that first Tron was considered to be a financial disappointment as well. It, I think, made $50 million at the box office. I know there was some merchandising that went along with that as well. But Disney has always looked at that as a financial disappointment. That is public information.
I mean, honestly, the only reason why we got Tron Legacy in the first place was because of the cult following.
Because of exactly. It did make its way into the zeitgeist a little bit. And now we can say the same thing about Tron Legacy, because, to your point, for all the reasons and numbers that you pointed out a moment ago, it also wasn't this huge success, but has since garnered this cult following. To the point, mind you, they've made an entire ride at Disney Magic Kingdom around this. They would not have done that if nobody gave a shit. Like if there was no cult following, if nobody on planet Earth wanted it, they would not have done that. They saw at least something regarding the cult following, the fans of that franchise that have been vocal over the last 15 years.
Right.
That they decided to invest in this franchise, both in terms of this sequel and also that ride. Yep. And obviously the two are working in conjunction. They ultimately greenlit Tron Ares, one, because of Leto's production company fronting much of this and leading the charge, but also they want to sell tickets to Disney World. They want to get people excited. Now,
I think it's kind of a ride advertisement is what this movie ultimately is.
Ultimately what it is. And it might work in its favor in that regard. To what degree, I don't know, because obviously Tron Ares is bombing hard.
Yeah.
So I don't know how successful it's been with that. The ride, to be fair, it's pretty great. I will be the advertisement and the billboard for the ride. It's badass. It's great. Well,
yeah, I can only imagine. I haven't been on that ride. I haven't been to Disney World in so long, but I can only imagine that ride is a lot of fun. I do think the failure of Tron Ares, at least based on these opening numbers, I really think it's less indicative of Tron and more indicative of the way big budget or big studios are handling their big budget movies. I think that narrative is out there, whether moviegoers are really aware of the specifics around that or not. But I think there is this sense that moviegoers are kind of tired of, I guess, the Marvelization of movies is maybe the best way I can put it. And while this isn't Marvel, obviously, I think the way that Disney as a brand has churned out Marvel properties and various IP properties over the years, that feeling, that feeling of coldness is starting to be severely felt by moviegoers. And I think that is now trickling into Tron. And I think that's ultimately why it's not doing nearly as well as even Tron Legacy. I think Tron Legacy's opening weekend was somewhere around 40 million, if I'm not mistaken, which adjusted for inflation is twice as much as what Tron Ares did this past weekend. So like that the narrative wasn't there at the time. But I think maybe that's part of it. I think the movie business and the business of movie making nowadays is hurting these big movies. And also the fact that Tron Ares just kind of sucks as a movie, I think is going to give it bad word of mouth.
Yeah. And Tron Legacy also came out at a time where you didn't have to gross $1 billion to be successful.
No, Disney wasn't chasing the $1 billion movie like they are now.
Yeah, absolutely. So circumstances quite different, but still, I do agree that the Marvelization of movies has certainly hindered Tron Ares to some degree or another. And while I do think this is a bit of a double-edged sword, I do agree that you can't be fully reliant on the cult. There is no cult following in the world that will be able to save a film and garner millions and millions of dollars to make a huge film like this, especially, be successful. Yeah. Even the Snyder Cut, that's something that had to go to HBO Max. They weren't even going to release that in theaters.
True. And
from their perspective, from Warner Brothers' perspective, they really don't consider that to be this huge success, this financial, like that's something they simply did for the fans.
Yeah, and it was a gift.
A lot of people are grateful for that, but it wasn't a financially responsible thing to do, really.
No, not at all.
And so like there's no cult following, regardless of how big it is. And the Snyder Cut cult is probably the biggest example of this. They at least inspired Warner Brothers to do something, despite how irresponsible that might have been financially. But that is to say, regardless of how big the cult following is for Tron Legacy, the film Ares was going to have to do more. It was going to have to cast a wider net outside of the cult following to be this financial success. So I understand that you can't wholly pander to the cult.
Mhm.
But I also think that alienating them, which is ultimately what Ares does, it does not invite the fans of Legacy to participate. And I do think that's been a big problem
Yeah.
with Ares.
I agree.
Like, again, you're not going to get to $400 million with just the cult alone. But if you make a movie for them, what you'll do is create word of mouth. You'll create a grassroots campaign that will help you recoup at least some assets.
Well, the director of Tron Legacy, didn't he kind of do that with Top Gun Maverick?
Yeah.
I mean, that was a movie that somewhat catered to the Top Gun fans, but also catered to just general fans who wanted to see a good movie. And I don't really understand Disney's tactic here, if they even had a tactic. They probably didn't. This is probably just something that they were working on for so many years. And after so much time, the agenda just got lost and clouded, and they just didn't know what they were making anymore. By this point, it became a product of a product of a product. But you would think for something like Tron that has a dedicated cult following, usually movies that have dedicated cult followings, these production companies will at least allow room for filmmakers and artists to be a little bit creative and weird and wonky and do their own things. I mean, that's ultimately why the Snyder Cut exists. It was a financial, it was not a financial move, as you were talking about.
Yes. Yeah.
But it was ultimately something that Zack Snyder needed and wanted to get off his chest. They let him make the thing he needed to make. That's not what this is. I mean, if anything, Tron Ares feels very much like Disney catering to a larger fan base that, quite frankly, doesn't really exist, which makes it kind of weird for them to do it this way.
I agree. And that's where you have to go back to make a good movie. You know, and I think Top Gun Maverick is a perfect example. There are fans of Top Gun, obviously. It created a whole generation of fighter pilots.
Right.
And people like myself who were inspired by the film love the movie. However, the cult following of that movie, if you will, that was never going to be enough.
Right.
That film does not make billions of dollars if you're not casting a wide enough net, which they were able to do because they made a great movie.
Exactly.
And the film was able to sell itself as a result. Ares couldn't sell itself as a good movie because there's no good movie to be had there. And so the marketing had struggled to reach that wider net. And also in the middle of that, you're alienating the fans of Legacy. So who is this movie for?
So basically what we're going to see in a week's time, like an 80% drop for Tron Ares, maybe? Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if it's something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if it's that high of a drop.
Yeah, and that's where I go back to the fundamental flaw in terms of its approach.
Yeah.
Either make a reboot and make a good reboot, or make a sequel to Legacy. I think you have to pick one lane or the other. In this case, trying to have your cake and eat it too does not work, especially when the final product is bad.
It just nullifies itself and becomes neither of those two things.
I mean, even if they tried to have their cake and eat it too, and it was a great movie, that'd be one thing. Obviously, I would have accepted the film despite my disappointment of avoiding Legacy the way that it does. But if it's a great movie, it's a great movie. Who cares?
Exactly. Yeah,
but
they tried something.
It's terrible. It's really, really bad. And then also, there's the extra sting of it completely avoids Legacy altogether, which from a narrative and thematic perspective, I think makes the film all the more feckless. I don't know who that movie is for. It's clearly not for the fans of Legacy. It's trying to create new fans, I guess. But that's going to be really hard to do when you got Jared Leto as your front man. And it's also hard to market because it's not very good. I mean, the approach there, I don't get.
I would love, I want to see a documentary on how this movie got made and what conversations were had over the course of those 15 years. I bet it's fascinating. I bet it's annoying and frustrating, but I bet it's also fascinating.
Yeah. And I think to your point about the annoyance of it all, I think that we'll circle back to Jared Leto and his production company being a key player here.
Yeah.
And with him at the forefront of getting the film made, of course, he's going to cast himself as the lead of the movie. That put that turned off a lot of people.
It never works, or at least I never like it, when a movie is made to support an actor's agenda, maybe not agenda, but an actor's portrayal of something or a push for something. We kind of said the same thing about something like The Smashing Machine, right? Which feels like a movie that was built and formulated around the idea of a Dwayne Johnson Oscar campaign. That feels like why that movie was kind of made. And that may not have been the case, but it feels like that. This movie, Tron Ares, feels like an attempt to rebrand Jared Leto. Like, that's what it kind of feels like. It doesn't feel like a movie. It feels like it feels like a marketing build or something like that. And those never work for me. I never can buy them.
I can't either. I mean, if we're including Tom Cruise in that conversation, at least, again, he goes out and he does his thing and he makes good movies. But generally, I'm with you. Or at least a lot of the times, it doesn't work.
Yeah, because Tom Cruise knows if it's going to support his stardom as an actor, it means nothing if the movie's not good.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. For him, it all starts as a good movie. And he talked about that a lot with Top Gun Maverick. I was never going to do that sequel unless we had a good story to tell.
Yeah.
And obviously they did.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, if you do it with good intentions and you have a solid foundation to build upon, and you draw a line in the sand that, hey, we're not going to do it if we don't have a story, then that's a lot more understandable. Clearly, Tom Cruise cares about the craft and cares about making good movies.
Absolutely.
Jared Leto doesn't really carry the same reputation.
Nah, he's too busy spending time on Mars, like his band talks about.
Okay, let's move on. I have something fun I want to talk about here.
Oh, I can't wait for this. I know you hinted at this offline. I want to see what this is.
Okay, I want to talk about the Oscars. Okay.
Okay.
And
turning art into sports once again.
Yeah. In particular, I want to talk about the Academy and their stupid rules. Okay.
Okay.
Let's start there, because I have strong feelings about the Academy and their dumb rules. You won't nominate certain scores, Hans Zimmer for Dune Part 2, let alone, but you'll nominate John Williams for doing Star Wars and reusing so many of those iconic themes over and over again, as he should, by the way, and yet he still gets nominated for those movies. The math is not mathing, is all that I'm saying.
No, the contradictions scream very loudly.
Yeah. And now, in their latest attempts to make me mad, they have made Indy the dog ineligible for Best Actor. Okay. We're going to have a problem here. We have a problem here, because Indy the dog should absolutely be nominated for Best Actor. I have talked about this on the show before. A month and a half ago, before this was even a broader talking point within the public, I came on this show. And if you don't believe me, go check out the archives. You can see a clip that I have on TikTok. I put a clip out on Instagram as well.
Yep.
Where we talked about this, and I championed, I fought for, I said, Indy should get a Best Actor nomination, and I am going to fight like hell to make sure that happens. There's going to be no bigger champion for Indy than myself. That's what I said a month and a half ago here on this show. And then lo and behold, last week, soon after we released last week's main show episode, there was a report that Indy and his lovely agent, they sent a letter to the Academy saying, I have been deemed ineligible for the Best Actor category. Apparently, I am not good enough for you. And you know what? Good for you, Indy. Good for you for standing up for yourself, because this is nonsense. He should be allowed, because look, these dogs give incredible performances. 2015, I brought up White God, brought up Hagen, who, by the way, was a part of this conversation, at least with the discourse after this report came out. People were talking about Hagen, and I was so pleasantly surprised, I nearly cried. I was so happy to see people talking about Hagen, because I thought then in 2015 he should have been nominated for an Oscar. I talked about that a lot during that award season. I'm also going to make this personal. Speaking of hashtag JD Tears.
Oh, okay. So this is where it gets real.
This is where it gets real.
Okay.
Because my lovely dog Dakota is not going to make it to Christmas. He's struggling.
I'm so sorry to hear.
It's like, he's lived a great life. He's 13 years old.
I was going to ask how old he was. That is actually a very good life. And how old was he when you got him?
A year.
So
it was a year when we got him.
That's basically 100% of his life that you made fulfilling for him.
Yes. And we got him, we rescued him. So he was a rescue. And amazing. He's been absolutely incredible.
I remember meeting that dog. Yeah. I remember once, sorry to cut you off. I remember you once had a bunch of people over your old apartment in Lexington, Kentucky. I forget, one of your friends came over, left the door open, and Dakota ran out. And we were out trying to get him back for like 45 minutes.
Yeah. And thank God you guys were there, because there's been several times that's happened over the years. He probably has ran out a dozen times. Thankfully, we were able to get him back every single time. But yeah, in his youth, he loved to do that. And any help we had was great. As Sam got older, he became my helper and could run him down a lot more than I could in my old age. But in the last year or so, his health has deteriorated quite rapidly. And it's not looking very good. He's not going to last much longer. I was really holding out hope that he would make it to Christmas. But that's looking like a wish, selfishly, on my end. I don't think he's going to make it that long. So, personally, this means something to me. Indy being nominated for an Oscar would be awesome for many reasons. Just because of the performance alone, having a dog on stage. I mean, come on. Could you imagine Indy in the seat? He has his little bow tie on and they cut to him with his little clip. That would be Oscar gold.
Who was the dog from Anatomy of a Fall again? I forget his name.
I'd have to look it up.
I'll have to look it up now.
You think about that moment.
Yeah,
people loved that moment.
They absolutely love that. So the Academy must be thinking like, I mean, maybe they're not thinking because these rules came out suggesting that they're not thinking about this. This is a great marketing ploy for them to get people to watch the show.
And hasn't that been a talking point over the last 5 years?
Ratings. And that's not to nullify the credibility of a dog like Indy from being nominated. I'm sure it's a great performance. I haven't seen the movie yet, but we've seen great dog performances that I guess you could argue really should be considered for awards like this. But at the same time, if the Academy is looking to boost ratings, this is a great opportunity to have your cake and eat it too, right? Like you can find the best of both worlds here.
I think so. I think so as well. And I would love to see it just from an Oscars perspective, from let's get new, fresh blood into the show. I think would be a lot of fun. And I know they're sort of doing that by adding this new casting category that will give something new to the ceremony as well.
And then eventually stunt category.
And then
the stunt category will be coming soon. Yeah.
Those are coming along as well.
The dog's name was Messi. The name of the real life dog from Anatomy of a Fall. He played Snoop.
That's it. Yes. Great performance. And had a splash at the Oscars. So you got to get Indy there. And it would be amazing because he gives a performance that is worthy of the conversation, much like Hagen and White God back in 2015. So I think we should take this much more seriously. And also, again, just on a personal level, as an ode, as a final farewell, a goodbye, an honoring of Dakota, this is going to be my personal not vendetta, but agenda. This is going to be my personal agenda for the award season.
And I feel like Dakota must have watched a few movies with you at home.
Oh my gosh,
right?
she's watched so many. My favorite memory, the memory that I will cherish forever with Dakota, is that for the longest time, really up until this last year when his health started to go, every time we would record an episode, he was in here with me. Every time.
I do remember you saying that. Yeah.
He would just lay here and he just wanted to be by me. He did not want me to leave him out.
It's the voice. It's the voice. Yeah.
If I left him out, he would scratch at that door. He would bark. There's no recording because all you would hear is that dog at the door making noise until I let him in. He had to be by me the whole time. And it did not matter how long we recorded. We could have been in here for hours. And oftentimes we were recording for hours. And he would lay there by my side the entire time. And as soon as I said goodbye to whoever I'm recording with, obviously most of the time it was Brennan, but as soon as I would say goodbye, he would stand up and we would walk out together. Like he just knew. He knew the routine. He knew all the words I would say.
They know routines. Yeah, they get it. They get it. They're smart.
That's
there's a certain point. There's a certain point at their lives that I think I've heard this. Dogs understand human language. Like they absolutely do. Yeah. It's not just noise to them, and that makes sense. That
he knew. Yeah, absolutely. And I will never forget that. That's easily been one of my favorite memories of Dakota. So
he's a good boy.
Indy, as an ode to Dakota, this is going to be my agenda. This is going to be my awards push. Indy for Best Actor. Hashtag Indy for Best Actor.
Let's make it happen.
Let's get annoying about this, and I apologize in advance.
Let's get enough people to back this. And you know, like how do you argue against it? I mean, it is an unorthodox pick because it's never happened before. Some might try to argue that, a dog getting nominated for an acting Oscar, well, they have trainers working with them. But don't human actors have trainers? And it's called the director. It's, I mean, granted, there are some actors that know how to work on their own that don't need to be directed. You know, if you're like Daniel Day-Lewis, right? But where do you separate those that need proper quote unquote training from those that don't? So, like, how
acting
different
coaches?
Is that?
Hello, or how about the what is the right terminology or the right title? The people that help actors with accents and things of that nature.
Oh, yeah, like a linguist? Is that what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's all
a dialect coach, I think, is maybe the
dialect
best
coach, yes.
Yeah, that's it.
Dialect coach, directors, acting coaches, all of these individuals exist to help an actor with their performance. It's no different. It's no different.
Just, in this case, the dialect is canine.
It's canine. Exactly. So, look, Indy absolutely deserves to be in the race. And I have to give the fellas at Awards Expert, I want to shout them out. Their app is fantastic. A lot of you listening to this are aware of it, have it downloaded. It's a great app. Love them. I have to shout them out because they have Indy on their app for Best Actor.
Good for them.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. I love it. Absolutely love it. Immediately one of the very best apps out there. Just for that alone. Let alone everything else about the app.
This show is not sponsored by Awards Expert, but it might as well be at this
It might
point.
as well be. It should be. Yeah, at this point, it should be. I love that. I saw that on there. Honestly, I was like, in all transparency, I went on there and I was like, I'm just going to fill out a 5 and then I'll screenshot it. And then I was planning on photoshopping Indy into my lineup. And I was going to tweet that just for fun. And he was there. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. I was like, he's actually there. So I didn't even have to do anything. They did all the work for me.
They made it easy for you. Yeah. They know what's up. They know what's up. Yeah. Love the app. It's fantastic. Shout out to those guys. They're great. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, Indy for Best Actor. Make it happen. I think the Academy will thank themselves later if they listen to us on this.
I think so.
All right, switching gears before we get to the top 5, and tonally, this is where things are going to get a little bit more sad. There's really no way to do this seamlessly, but we have to talk about the great Diane Keaton, who unfortunately passed away at the age of 79.
Shocker.
Just this year has just continued to be a blow.
And how many of them are going to be forgotten during the in memoriam section at the Academy Awards?
Don't even.
That's a different conversation. Let's talk about Diane Keaton.
If they forget any of them, and there have been several legends this year, including Diane Keaton. If they, well, I guess we'll cross that bridge when it comes.
Yeah.
Diane Keaton, though, again, one of those legends. Where do you even begin with her career?
I don't know where you begin. I mean, she was arguably one of the great female faces of the new Hollywood in the 1970s, right? And you can obviously talk about The Godfather or many of the Woody Allen movies, Annie Hall being her. Yeah, that's probably the most cited one. You know what it was about Diane Keaton that I personally love so much? Well, it comes down to two things. I think her comedic timing was very unique, especially for actresses. I think she was one of the best to ever do that type of performance. She was a very funny presence. The other thing too is, especially when you look at her work in the 90s and into the 2000s, you know, many of these great actors and great actresses had this almost superhuman quality to them. Like there was something really special about them. And Diane Keaton certainly had that. But at the same time, she also seemed like the kind of person that I could easily see just hanging around in my neighborhood. She seemed so like present, normal, American, I think that was the thing that I always latched on to. I think that made her perhaps one of the most relatable presences in really any movie that she has been in. She has always been, for the most part, kind of the audience surrogate, the emotional anchor for so many of her movies. And I love that for her. My wife and I, we were just rewatching the two Father of the Bride movies from the 90s, which I know are remakes from another movie from, I think, the 50s, if I'm not mistaken. But obviously the 1990s film starring Steve Martin, they were Nancy Meyers' productions. She didn't direct those movies, but she produced and co-wrote them. And as great as those movies are because of how comedically present Steve Martin is, I realize how much they work because of how Diane Keaton anchors those movies and provides some level of normalcy for them. And I think that was always the thing that made me love her. She was so good at that. Yeah, she is incredible. And I very much agree with a lot of what you're saying. I'm not sure what else to add because I think you nailed it. But if I had to boil it down, I think what makes her so singular is the authenticity that she brings to her roles, coupled with this eccentric charm, this fearlessness that she brought to her characters. There's something about the way she treated the material around her that was equal parts intelligent, very funny, obviously, but there was also this emotional depth that started to redefine some of the tropes that were in her films, in the romantic comedies especially. But I also just love the eclectic mix. I mean, you mentioned The Godfather. You get something like Annie Hall, Something's Gotta Give, Red, like that. Like she had a great range that is undeniable. And I love that unapologetic self-expression that she would bring to her characters. It just seems so sweet.
Sweet.
Do you have a favorite that you can think of off the top of your head?
I was looking through her filmography here a little bit. The two that come to mind for me are Annie Hall. I do really love that film, and I think she is almost the key reason why. Like her
that's fair.
performance.
That's
and it's
fair.
also such a fascinating story, right? Because the original version of Annie Hall was more segmented.
Yeah.
And she was so electric and so magnetic that they decided to make that movie around her character. That's how much of a presence she had on screen. And again, in terms of melding that charm and wit with the emotionality of her characters, that's quintessential what she does with Annie Hall. But I also think about what she does with Reds, which might not be talked about as much, maybe comparatively to some of these others. But man, and that's another really good movie. And she's maybe the standout in that as well.
That might be my favorite quote unquote serious performance of hers. I know a lot of people might cite her work in The Godfather and even The Godfather Part 2, and I understand why, but there is something about her presence in Reds that kind of makes that movie for me. I think my favorite might be Something's Gotta Give.
Great in that too.
Like, the more I think about that movie in particular, and really Nancy Meyers' work in general, I think a lot of it is aging really, really well. They came out at a time when romantic comedies were just doing different things. They had an epic quality to them. And her presence in that movie is absolutely stunning. Also working alongside Jack Nicholson, one of her, contemporaries of the new Hollywood in the 1970s. So I think that pairing also has this like strange meta quality to that movie that gives it an added charm that otherwise maybe isn't on the page, but she is a real big reason for that too. It's one of her most magnetic performances in her later career.
Yeah. And again, 3 very different movies.
Absolutely.
It just kind of shows how magnetic she is in these various ranges. And she does make all 3 of those movies in a lot of ways.
I mean, I even enjoy the book club movies just because she's in them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she always elevates anything that she's in.
Absolutely.
She was great. Yeah. She's a legend for a reason. Yeah.
She'll be missed. She'll be missed.
She'll be missed for sure. All right, Brendan, let's talk about Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning, the movie that you and I we're still figuring it out.
I'll tell you this, after Tron Ares, I'm liking that movie more.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. As far as movies about AI goes, The Final Reckoning puts Ares to shame. There's no question about that.
I will say this, we had a very intense review back when The Final Reckoning came out. And I have to say, I'm still kind of thinking about this movie. Like, I'm still not sure if it's really, as clever as I might think it is, but it's getting me provoked. Like, it is provoking me. And I kind of appreciate that. I kind of do.
Yeah. I mean, there's certainly plenty to like in terms of the practicality of the action and all of the Tom Cruise-y things that come along with Mission Impossible.
Oh, sure.
I just speaking for myself, wasn't the biggest fan of the movie, but that's good news for everybody else because we have 5 Blu-rays to give away for this movie.
Oh, wow. We got physical. We're getting physical with this one.
We're getting physical. I got
Tom
5
Cruise,
Blu-rays to give away.
Tom Cruise would love that. It's all about practical effects. We got something you can actually hold.
You can hold it, and I'm not going to steal one. I have no incentive to.
I might take it.
Brendan might steal one. But look, we have 5 Blu-rays to give away. And if you've listened to this show before, you know how this works. You got to follow us on social media, Twitter and Instagram at InSession Film. You'll see a post from us sometime this week. And all you have to do is interact with the post. And you'll be eligible to win one of these Blu-rays. We pick them at random.
Yeah.
Just total random Hattie. And if you win, I will reach out. You have to follow us because I got to be able to DM you to get your address so that way I can send you one of these Blu-rays. We got 5 of them. 5 to give away. So be on the lookout. Again, follow us at InSession Film for your chance to win a Blu-ray for Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. We will never see Ethan Hunt again. He is
Wink,
never
wink.
coming back
Wink,
ever
wink.
again.
The entity has a hold on him.
Yeah. For those listening, I am winking quite drastically, over the toply, as I say that. But we do have the 5 Blu-rays. That is not over the top. That's not an exaggeration. We do have those. So follow us on social media, and we thank Mission Impossible for their support. All right, Brandon, let's talk about coffee. I am highly energized on it as we speak.
Human medicine. Adult medicine.
It is the best. And look, if you're going to drink coffee, there are 2 ways to do it. You can drink premium coffee, which might cost you a little bit more up front. Or you can buy the cheap, more terrible coffee, but guess what? You have to supplement because it doesn't taste very good.
Yeah. So basically what you're saying, there are 2 ways to drink coffee, the right way and the wrong way.
In the wrong way. Yeah, because if you supplement the cheap coffee, you're going to add milk and creamers and sugar.
Yep.
And
by that point,
caramel.
It's no longer coffee. It's just like caffeinated milk is basically what you have.
You're drinking a espresso milkshake at that point. And that's going to add up as well in terms of cost. Like, that's going to add up
In calories.
Yeah. Like, if you get a drink at another coffee shop, how much does that go for? Like $10 for a cup?
Oh,
depending on
much.
the size
Too
that
much.
you get. But it's about $10. So you could get that every single day, and that's going to add up.
Yeah.
So the price of Coffee Cult, I feel like, is like it makes up for itself in the long run.
Especially considering that you have less ingredients going into your coffee this time.
With Coffee Cult, all you need is the coffee. You don't need to add anything else to it because we're talking about premium Arabica coffee. They roast only the top 2 specialty coffees in the world, the best of the best, like very objectively the best rated coffees on the planet. Yeah. That's what they roast. And it is incredible. And it's all sourced ethically, of course. They work directly with the farms and they roast to order. So there's no coffee just sitting around on a shelf. What you're getting, they've roasted within the last few days.
Yeah.
You don't want to get coffee the same day because it's got an off gas. If you drink coffee as soon as it's roasted, it's actually not very good.
No.
It's too gassy. It's got an off gas. So
it's kind of like when you let bourbon age in a barrel. You got to let it do its magic.
Yeah. So within the next week, so you place an order, they roast it, they'll send it a few days later because, again, it's got an off gas. But you'll get it within the same week of that roast. It'll be very, very fresh. That is fully guaranteed, and it's an amazing coffee. So go to coffeecult.com, coffee with a K, cult with a K, coffeecult.com. At checkout, use our code ISF25. And you'll get 15% off. Again, that code is ISF25. You'll get 15% off. That's one of the best discounts they give. We're on the verge of the holidays, and you know what that means.
Holiday blend, baby.
Holiday blend. It is about to come back, and it is glorious. I promise you, you're going to want to get this coffee. It tastes like Christmas in a mug. It is fan-freaking-tastic.
I cannot wait to get my hands on that again. Soon.
Yes, very soon. Coffeecult.com. Use that code ISF25, and we thank Coffee Cult for their support. Okay, with that said, let's go ahead and transition to our top 5 performances from comedians. So this is going to be real interesting. Obviously, there's a lot to mine here. I'm curious, Brendan, how did you approach your top 5?
Oh, this was pretty tricky. And I like that we're choosing to like title this as performances by comedians, because I think that creates more of a broad spectrum that we can work with. Initially, when we talked about this, we were talking about best performances by stand-up comedians to be kind of inspired by the movie Good Fortune coming out, which was directed by Aziz Ansari, who is known as a stand-up comic and apparently gives a pretty effective performance in it, from what I understand. And we have seen great examples of traditionally stand-up comedians giving great performances in movies that are kind of disassociated from their normal work, right?
Yes.
I did want to focus on not just stand-up comedians, but actors that are primarily known for their comedy. And in doing so, focus on performances that maybe deviate a little bit more from that comedic stamp, if that makes sense. Now,
Yes.
there are films in my top 5 that are still comedic performances, but they showcase a different side to these people that go beyond just the comedy, if that makes sense. And I wanted to focus on that. So that was really the basis of my top 5. I will say this is a very sudden criteria that I'm now inputting onto my list, and I really just decided to do this last minute. I am going to call this my Adam Sandler memorial list. And that's primarily because on a true list, Adam Sandler in Punch Drunk Love and Uncut Gems might be my number 1 and number 2 respectively.
Okay.
He could be. I
enough.
feel like I could include both of those performances in my top 5. And I didn't necessarily want to give them a tie because they are very different performances. And I wanted to focus on just the performance itself. So by leaving Adam Sandler off, as much as he does deserve to be here, because he kind of represents the idea of this topic in many ways.
Yeah.
It also gives me room to talk about maybe some, I don't want to say surprise picks, but maybe some picks that we haven't really talked much about on this show, to go a little bit, a little bit outside the box, if you will. And that leaves room to do that. So I love you, Adam Sandler. You should be on this list, but we've talked about you a lot, and rightfully so.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very fair. I didn't really limit myself in that regard, but it does sound like we have similar criteria in the sense that I wanted to look at performances that also demonstrated their comedic prowess. It's really hard to do a list like this that's wholly dramatic or wholly removed from the comedy because we're talking about comedians after all. So even in their most serious, quote unquote, serious work, there's always moments of humor that comes through because at their core, they are comedians. So you're always going to have that duality that I do think is going to be indicative with several of my picks here, even though some of them, and I do have at least one on here that's quite removed comedically.
Okay.
But generally speaking, especially once we get to honorable mentions, so many of these do find that middle ground. And I'm with you in the sense that while there is going to be a comedic sensibility, I wanted to look beyond what they're typically known for as comedians, to see them challenge themselves and really dig into the nuances of a character, however that means, that, as you noted, isn't really associated with their comedic background, whatever that means, whether that's stand-up, SNL, however they got their start as a comedian.
Absolutely.
Again, wanted to challenge that form. So we're in a very similar place in that regard. Outside of that, I didn't really have too much criteria.
Okay.
With that said, or too much extra criteria, I should say.
Sure.
All right, what do you got at number 5?
So number 5, I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this one, not much, because I think it's a movie you haven't seen. I'm going to go to the year 1978. It was actually the directorial debut of Paul Schrader. It's a movie called Blue Collar. I'm not sure if you've seen this one.
Nope.
This movie features really a 3-person leading act of Harvey Keitel, Yaphet Kotto, and Richard Pryor. and Richard
Okay.
Pryor is my number 5 here. He plays the
Gotcha.
character Zeke. This is a movie about 3 automotive workers, factory workers specifically. They're all struggling financially and decide to steal from their own labor union as they discover further corruption. It's at times a pretty funny movie, but it's a very surprising turn for the type of person that Richard Pryor is. And I think it's a very good movie. I think given the circumstances of what this means, especially the labor market of the time, the union labor market of the time, and how that even feels very timely nowadays, Richard Pryor as Zeke taps into that really effectively. I think there's a desperation in his performance that is very palpable and very surprising. And for those reasons, it's a performance and a movie in general that has always stood out for me. It's not, it feels like a typical Paul Schrader film, but not quite as edgy or as introspective as a lot of his later work would be. It's certainly maybe more accessible by comparison, but it's a very entertaining movie, but also a very devastating movie. And that desperation in the character of Zeke and how Richard Pryor portrays that, I think, is very effective. So wanted to highlight that here. I know it's one that not many people have seen, but I do urge you all to check it out.
All right. Yeah, that's a movie and a performance that I saw quite a bit in research for this topic, but it is a blind spot for me. So
Gotcha.
I unfortunately cannot speak to it, but one I certainly do need to catch up with for sure.
Very good movie.
All right. My number 5, I'm going with Lily Tomlin from Nashville, 1975.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, I love this. Obviously, Lily Tomlin has done immense comedic work. She comes from a sketch comedy background and did a lot of great comedies early on in her career. And then in 1975, she comes along and does Nashville. And in this portrayal of Linnea, she is magnetic in this incredible introspective way.
Yeah.
There's a lot of her performance, and this is such a JD thing, and I know it is for you as well, but I just love how reactive that performance is. It's a masterclass in how great a performance can be when it's understated. It's just her interacting with the camera. And while she does have some interesting moments of dialogue in the film, it really is the relationship of Altman's direction and how he chooses to use the camera to just capture this essence that Tomlin just freaking delivers with incredible grace. And, it's phenomenal. Absolutely. Beautiful subtlety is maybe the best way to describe it. I absolutely love it. It is my number 5 here.
And subtlety is not typically a word associated with comedic actors, right? I think it just goes to show that a great director can capitalize on something you've never really seen before when they push a certain performer outside their comfort zone. Robert Altman was a great example of someone who could do that because he was essentially a deconstructionist. All of his movies were kind of deconstructing certain norms and certain trends that movies represented of the time. And this is yet another great example. And he would even do it again with Lily Tomlin in a movie like Shortcuts, another great performance. So,
absolutely.
So I think a common theme with a lot of these picks that we're going to have here is how unique these performances seem, because these actors are tapping into something that maybe they've never done before, and that makes the way they go about it so uniquely them and unlike anything we've ever seen. I love when any type of artist can step outside their comfort zone, and this is a great example with Lily Tomlin.
Yeah, and I deeply love that contrast of the emotional realism, the observational approach to this character. That is in such contrast to what you think about when it comes to a comedian, which is obviously so vocal most of the time. Obviously, you can certainly utilize sight gags or physical mannerisms to deliver comedy as well. But when you come from stand-up and sketch background, as Lily Tomlin was, a lot of her comedic sensibilities were more overt. Yeah. And I do love that, as we see in many other films as well. but you contrast that to the polar opposite end of the extreme where you're having to do everything simply through gesture.
Yeah.
Man, that's challenging, especially when you're young as she was in that film, at least in her career and her work on camera. Just phenomenal stuff.
It's
Absolutely
great.
Love that.
That's a great pick. Great pick.
All right, what do you got at number 4?
Number 4, I'm going to go to a more recent example. Recent being a film that's shockingly almost 10 years old. I didn't even think about that until I had the IMDb page open here. Guess we are getting old. I'm going to the year 2017. S. Craig Zahler's Brawl in Cell Block 99.
I was deeply wondering if this was going to be on your list. I was really hoping it would be.
Vince Vaughn, baby. Vince Vaughn.
This film and performance rules. It is so good.
It's so good. I can't recall. Did I have him among my nominees for Best Actor that year?
I almost guarantee it.
I know
Almost
this movie
guaranteed.
was in my top 10 for that year, and I still stand by that. It's an amazing movie.
Yeah.
And I love how, I don't know if this is what S. Craig Zahler said to Vince Vaughn as a form of directing to get this performance out of him, but it almost sounds like he's saying, listen, you're a big guy in real life, play with that. Like play with how people might perceive that. So once again, there's kind of a deconstructionist mentality with this performance in sort of the opposite way, right? Because Vince Vaughn in real life is a very tall individual. He's a very big presence, but he has always played kind of a goofy, sensitive soul in many ways.
Yeah.
And here he kind of plays into what maybe his usual stereotype could have been. And because it's so late in his career, he does it so well, and it's so surprising. There's a violent nature to his character of Bradley Thomas here, but there's also a lot of pity and empathy given, what he's fighting for. And it takes a great actor to find that line by being one of the most fearful presences on screen and one that you can't help but feel bad for. And I think he straddles that line very well by taking that sensitive side that he's known for, but giving it this newly formed sense of violence that just kind of makes sense. So I love this performance. I'm so glad you assumed I was going to have it on my list. It's such a Brendan pick, I guess, but at the same time, I think there's a lot to argue in favor for it. So I think it's great.
Deeply, deeply love it. Legitimately one of the best performances of that year. And it's exactly why, and I love that we do this with our award show, why we have categories like Best Surprise Performance. Because, good Lord, this seemingly came out of nowhere.
Right?
It is unbelievable what he does in that film.
Yeah. And it's
I was blown away.
not the only time he did it. I'll go to bat for him in Dragged Across Concrete.
I agree. I agree.
That's
Very
an
good
underrated movie.
Yes. Polarizing movie. Understand why it's not for everybody.
I get that. Yeah. Love it. I love it.
I love it as well. And I think Vince Vaughn in Brawl in Cell Block 99 is astounding. Incredible. Deeply love that ending. Incredibly potent performance. I do love it. All right, my number 4. I guess we don't have to spend a lot of time here. This is my Adam Sandler pick. This is Punch Drunk Love, although I do love him in Uncut Gems as well. But there's something about the emotional volatility of Punch Drunk Love that I really, really love. Obviously, we all know the Adam Sandler story, his comedic background of the 90s, his work on SNL, and I love all of his comedic work as well. Grew up on Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison and all those movies. So when Punch Drunk Love comes in 2002, it was quite the swing, working with Paul Thomas Anderson, and we see this rage and sadness beneath Sandler's man-child-like persona that is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I love how the film weaponizes his comedic sensibilities, and of course Sandler being very aware of what the film is doing with that in this subversive way. Just he's propulsive in that film. He's quiet when he needs to be. He's funny when he needs to be. But there's a painfulness to that performance that's also called for and absolutely delivers. Incredible. Obviously, as you noted, this would be number 1 or number 2 on a true list for you. So I know
it
you
would be
love it
number
as
1
well,
for
but-
me. Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
because it is the most deconstructionistic of all.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
that's ultimately what I'm getting at. Yeah, it's very deconstructionist.
Well, because it's essentially Paul Thomas Anderson's way of saying, if Adam Sandler plays a variation of the same character in all of his movies, I'm going to make an Adam Sandler movie that asks the question, why is he that way? And basically makes one of the best movies ever made about social anxiety disorder. And kind of gives a reason as to why Adam Sandler and many of these past characters that he has played might behave this way. Becomes kind of a thematic essay on movies like Billy Madison and The Waterboy and Happy Gilmore. I just think that's a fascinating way to go about making a movie that exists as sort of a commentary for other movies, but also exists as its own emotional experience. It's really quite great.
It's great. And in the middle of that, through that deconstruction, it's arguably the film with the most pathos in PTA's filmography. And I love that. It's,
maybe the most cathartic for sure.
It's certainly cathartic for sure.
Yeah.
And I just love how raw it is in that. And for Adam Sandler to be in on that deconstruction, and I can only imagine what that experience was for him, like on a personal level. And I do think it made him a better actor. I feel like in the aftermath of it, we saw various ranges from Sandler that has continued to this day. And I do love that while he still does his silly little goofy comedies, but he's maintained this level of craft that really began with Punch Drunk Love. And seemingly we're going to get another version of that with Jay Kelly later on this year. So
been hearing that. Yeah, absolutely.
I can't wait. Yeah. Sandler, honestly, I would not have expected to say this 20 years ago, but really is one of my favorite performers. When
I think he is one of the best actors working. I really
honestly,
do.
I really do. I don't always love his silly, goofy side when it's full on silly. Like I didn't love the Happy Gilmore sequel.
Oh, I didn't either. I will say I kind of liked, what was it called? Hoobie Halloween he did some years ago. I kind of liked that one. That was pretty cute.
Yeah. But a lot of the stuff he's done outside of that, and some of the Madison films that he's done, like the one you mentioned, they're certainly fine. I'm not saying it's all bad, but I love that he continues to challenge himself, though.
Oh, absolutely. He makes movies and then he goes on vacation and films them.
Yeah. Like I know people didn't really talk about Spaceman a lot last year, or I can't remember the name of that film.
It was Spaceman. Yeah.
Was it Spaceman?
Yeah,
I thought he was great in that.
He was good in it. I didn't love the movie, but he was good in it. There was the basketball movie, Hustle.
Also
he was really
very
good in that.
He's really great in that. And that's a nice little middle ground, right? Because there are fun little comedic bits there, but also scratching beyond just those comedic sensibilities.
Yeah, so it's not quite as challenging as, let's say, his work in Punch Drunk Love, for instance. But I still think a very effective performance that showcases his range.
But honestly, like one of my favorite performers for sure.
Oh yeah, I would agree.
Like him a lot.
I would agree.
All right, number 3. What do you got at number 3?
Number 3, I'm going to one of the greats who is sadly no longer with us. I'm going to the great Robin Williams. And when you talk about Robin Williams, of course, you might think, oh yeah, Good Will Hunting, an amazing performance. I agree. It is not my number 3, though. I'm actually going to go to the year 2002, his performance in 1 Hour Photo for my number 3.
Okay. Yeah,
and this is written and directed by Mark Romanuk. It is admittedly a film I don't love. I think it actually kind of botches the ending a little bit, but I think getting to that point,
I think that's what I was a little surprised by, because you've been on the record of being so on the movie itself.
It's really because of the final maybe 15 minutes or so, I think really stifles a lot of the momentum of where this movie could have gone. But I think getting to that point, it's a very effective movie, primarily because of Robin Williams' performance as Seymour Parrish. It's a very different performance for him, essentially playing what is a villainous role. And I think much like Vince Vaughn's performance in Brawl and Cell Block 99, Robin Williams does a great job straddling this line between empathy and downright fear. Seymour Parrish is at times a very lonely and sad character that you can't help but feel for. Sometimes you just want to give him a hug, and you absolutely never want to talk to this man and never want to engage in any form of conversation with him because he is absolutely creepy in this movie. And I think that side of his performance here, Williams specifically, is why it's my number 3. I never expected someone like Robin Williams being able to sell that creepiness as well as he does. There's an ickiness to his performance here that is utterly surprising and utterly effective. I understand why we celebrate his performance in something like Good Will Hunting, and maybe is the more rounded performance in a more rounded movie. But I think there's something more challenging about his performance here in 1 Hour Photo. And I respect him for really stepping outside of his comfort zone here. I think that's what this whole topic is all about. And I think this is maybe the best example of that.
Yeah, I also really like him in that film. I love him generally, whatever he's doing. He's simply one of the best of his time. When I was laying out my list here, I have him at my number 7 slot, and honestly, I just wrote Robin Williams because like I don't know if I could choose one between 1 Hour, Good Will Hunting, Dead Poets, The Fisher King.
Oh, The Fisher King's another one I thought about.
What Things May Come.
Even Mrs. Doubtfire, there's some range to that performance that I don't think gets talked about nearly enough.
I agree. No, there's certainly a poignancy to that film at times. There's no doubt about it, as zany as it is throughout. But I do agree with you. That is a nuanced performance. And I deeply love all of them. It was, I guess it's a little bit to your point about Adam Sandler. It was really hard for me to choose. If I had to choose one, gun to my head, maybe Good Will Hunting, as cliche as that is, but man, there is something so warm and endearing about that performance that I really, really love. But I do agree with you. I love what he does with 1 Hour Photo, and maybe in a similar way, what he does in Insomnia in terms of playing against type.
That's true. Yeah.
Really fascinating as well.
And I think that was the same year as 1 Hour Photo. I think both came in 2002.
Yeah. I mean, he was not afraid to challenge himself performatively. There's no doubt about that. I mean, his comedic work is genius. We all know and love that about Robin Williams, but he was not afraid to try to. Yeah. He would actively try to put a square peg into a round hole. That's almost what he lived for in a lot of ways.
Great way to put it.
And he somehow found a way to do it. Like, I don't know how. And even if he couldn't, he would go down swinging. He was trying to put that in the hole.
He didn't even need a script. I mean, you could also talk about Aladdin as maybe a eligible performance here, but it is a very comedic performance. So it very much is of his type in a way. But the fact that so much of that performance wasn't reliant on any script whatsoever is absolutely astounding.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal. Deeply miss him. Deeply, deeply. The world is not the same without Robin Williams.
I agree. I agree so much, man.
All right, my number 3. I thought about this one heavily, Brendan, because my number 2 and number 3 are pretty interchangeable. I almost have this at number 2.
Okay.
But that's how high I am on it, just to provide a little bit of context here.
Okay.
My number 2 is...
Or your number 3, you mean?
My number 3/2.
I was going to say, wait, did we forget something?
My 2B. Mary Tyler Moore from Ordinary People.
Oh, that's an interesting choice.
So what I love about this pick, and it's a little similar to Lily Tomlin in the sense that Mary Tyler Moore is television royalty, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it be the Dick Van Dyke Show, obviously the Mary Tyler Moore Show was revolutionary, and people loved her as this television presence.
Yeah.
And then she does Ordinary People, where she is cold. It is weaponized composure. It is emotional restraint in this stoic, almost off-putting way.
So against type.
So against type, but deeply, deeply poignant and felt. And it's understandable that when that film came out, audiences did not know how to respond to her. They didn't know how to feel about that performance. What do you mean Mary Tyler Moore is in this film delivering a cold, disassociated performance? That's not who I know that actress to be.
Yeah.
Man, do I love that. I just like that idea alone, like that contrast to me is so fascinating. And then you watch the film and you watch that performance, and it truly is a powerhouse performance. I know that she didn't win the Oscar that year, but there's an incredible argument that she should have.
Yeah, it's a fair point.
I know people love Sissy Spacek, and that's a deserved Oscar, but this one is equally deserved. That, as far as I'm concerned, is a coin toss. And it's easily one of the best performances of that year. And I love that, again, just speaking to the prowess of her as an actress, that she can just flip a switch to go from look at my comedic sensibilities and how people look at me, and then just do something so unexpected and dour and emotional. And it's phenomenal. What she does in that film is it's incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and I feel like Ordinary People is one of those movies that never really had a falling out as far as people's feelings towards it, but I feel like it's even starting to garner more of a critical reevaluation, is that this is actually one of the better, if not one of the best picture winners of all time. And maybe a lot of that is also due to the Robert Redford of it all. And maybe that has something to do with it too, but I'm with you. I think this is a great performance, and like all of these picks here, very much against type. Certainly a theme with all of these picks here, and that's going to continue with my next few picks too. Comedic actors specifically that very much go against type, but this is another great example and a surprising one, especially given that it comes from television. She came from television, which it's just a very different world and a very different type of it's a very different type of performance. You perform differently within the world of television than you do in film. It's a very different medium, which takes a very different set of skills. And she was very much up for the challenge for sure.
Yeah. And again, I know we talked about this with Lily Tomlin, but it's applicable here in the sense that, and I guess to your point a moment ago, television, and not just television, but the comedy work that she was doing is so vastly different than the emotional restraint that she's asked to do in that film. And like, it's one thing to just give a dramatic performance.
Sure.
And that alone would have been jarring for a lot of people at the time. It's something that we experience now with comedic actors. It is a little bit jarring, and we love to see that.
Yeah.
But the type of performance, the type of drama that she's going for there, it takes it to a new level. And I think she's just as good. Like, you wouldn't have known, like, if you had no context as to who she was and you just saw that performance in a vacuum, you'd be like, that's one of the best dramatic actors I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's stunning. Like, it's just a stunning performance.
It is. That's a great pick. Great honorable mention of mine.
Again, 2B as far as I'm concerned.
That's fair.
Or 1C perhaps.
Curious to see what you have tied for it now.
What do you have at number 2?
Number 2, I'm going back to the year 1982 to my favorite Martin Scorsese film.
Oh, this was close for me.
This was close. Yeah. The great Jerry Lewis as Jerry Langford in The King of Comedy.
I have this at 8 on my list.
8 on your list? Okay, so it just missed your top 5, but you still have it in your top 10. Yeah. And I get that a lot of this film's edge and what makes it so timeless is mostly due to Robert De Niro here. This might actually be my favorite Robert De Niro performance. And which is that's saying a lot. That's saying a lot given how great his career has been.
Mm-hmm.
But what I love so much about Jerry Lewis in this movie, and for those who don't know, Jerry Lewis was mostly known for his partnership with Dean Martin, and then would, of course, star in very classic comedies from the 60s like The Nutty Professor as Buddy Love, for instance. What I love so much about his performance here is that it might even be the most deconstructionistic of all of these picks, because he is willing to go out of his way to say that these people that we look up to are probably nasty individuals that we should not be looking up to. And you actually look at and watch interviews of Jerry Lewis in real life. He's not the most pleasant of individuals, or at least he was not the most pleasant of individuals. So maybe you can argue he's playing himself a little bit here, but I think there is a bit of bravery in the fact that he chose to do this, playing a character also named Jerry. I mean, that definitely seems on point there. And it makes for a movie that is very ahead of its time in how it portrays the ugliness of celebrity, television celebrity specifically, and how Jerry Lewis was willing to do that almost for himself. I admire that bravery, and I admire that he was willing to go there and do that. And I think the performance as well is also very effective. There's actually a dryness to his comedic timing in this movie that's very unlike him. You know, you watch it alongside something like The Nutty Professor, it is wildly different. And I think that dryness is what makes it even more effective as just a performance and not just as some type of meta commentary. But I think both working together make it a very effective performance.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a fascinating comparison and contrast to Adam Sandler and Punch Drunk Love, for example, in the sense that they're both doing this deconstructionist thing, but where they differ is where Punch Drunk Love continued this subversion of the Sandler persona. And to your point, what I love about the King of Comedy is that it splits off to almost commentate on Jerry Lewis himself. Yeah. And for him to be in on the joke, so to speak, phenomenal. Like how you talk him into that. I want to know what that conversation was like. Like seriously, I don't know how Scorsese.
How did you convince him to do this? It's amazing how it's amazing how a movie like this, which is now seen as one of Scorsese's best movies. I know a lot of people that do say it's his best movie. It was not felt that way at the time.
No, it's come around in the last 15, 20 years.
Yeah,
I've always loved it.
Yeah, isn't it your favorite or at least top 3 for you?
I haven't really wrestled with a Scorsese ranking in a minute, but yeah, it's hovering around that 1-2 spot for sure.
Okay.
Easily, yeah.
It's so good.
I deeply love it. I agree with everything you said. It's phenomenal performance.
Great stuff.
All right, number 2A for me.
Don't you mean 1B at this point?
1B or 1B. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm going with Jim Carrey in Eternal Sunshine.
Okay, this was probably somewhere around like number 8 for me or something like that.
Yeah, and honestly, it's for very similar reasons to what we've already talked about in terms of how you get this comedic actor who we love in his comedic roles, Ace Ventura, among many others. And you get this very different performance. And what I love about Carrey here is it's not a restrained performance. It's actually quite antithetical to that. But within the performance, you get this deep sense of loneliness and regret. There is a passivity to the performance still. It's still very different from
there's a timidity to this performance.
There's a timidity. He is quietly drowning in memory. And I love how that is in contrast to Kate Winslet, who embodies this wild impulsivity. And together, through that dynamic and that polarization, they create this phenomenal relationship that, of course, continues to evolve as the film goes. And it's a really great movie, but I love how Jim Carrey is able to tap into that timidity and that pathos in a way that we just had never seen from him to that point, and really since. And it's such a powerhouse of a performance that I deeply love. Yeah, I mean, when we brought this up, this was one of the very first that came to mind for me.
Oh yeah, same here, same here. And I think a lot of it is because when you think of a topic like this, best performance by traditionally comedians, Jim Carrey and Adam Sandler, I feel like, are the two that often kind of define that topic because of movies like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and Punch Drunk Love. I will say we certainly saw hints of this side of Jim Carrey in movies like The Truman Show. I'd say that was probably the start of this new phase that we saw with Jim Carrey in the early 2000s. Even so, a movie like The Truman Show still kind of carries the traditional Jim Carrey isms in a way. You still see a lot of the familiar Jim Carrey in that movie, which is not a bad thing. It serves that movie right. But Eternal Sunshine is where he was really starting to shed his skin a little bit.
I agree. And that is perhaps maybe the biggest difference with some of these picks on our list that we've talked about is that, I mean, and you make a good point. This wasn't Jim Carrey's first turn at doing drama or something quote unquote more serious. Certainly The Truman Show. I think even Man on the Moon came out before this. If I'm
Man
not
on the Moon,
mistaken.
I think, came out before this. I would even argue a movie like Liar Liar has some dramatic nuances to it, despite the whole wackadoo of that movie.
Yeah, for sure. And I think what I love about Eternal Sunshine is that it's Jim Carrey taking his experiences on those films and really honing his craft in this new and different way, because obviously he's working with a writer and director that is so different than anything else he had done to that point. Although The Truman Show and even Man on the Moon have their own eccentricities, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But Eternal Sunshine is just operating in this different manner. And people consider Eternal Sunshine, and I do think this matters to the conversation a little bit. I think it is why when this topic is brought up, this performance often comes to mind and is, you know, on every list you'll ever find about this particular topic, because Eternal Sunshine is considered to be one of the best films of the 21st century to this point.
Yeah.
And certainly there's a lot that goes into that. It's the writing, it's the directing, it's the thematic structure of the film, it's all of that stuff. But the performances are such a vital piece to that as well. And you have Jim Carrey delivering arguably his best work in this transcendent way that I deeply love, especially because, again, of that aching vulnerability we see in the character. And that melancholy is so important to the film. And again, I love how it bounces off of Kate Winslet, and it's just it's incredible. Like for a film about memory and regret, that film falls apart without those performances.
Oh yeah, another way of looking at it too is it takes a really talented performer to make Charlie Kaufman's writing make sense and work.
Yeah, he brings a cogency to it. That's also a great point. Yeah.
Yeah, like his writing is so so irreverent, so odd. The wrong type of performance can make that writing just not work at all. The fact that he was up to the challenge and made it sing as loudly as it does is a testament to that talent that he has.
Yeah. And also without over sentimentalizing it as well. Like there's not.
No, he doesn't overdo it. Yeah, you're right.
He doesn't overdo it. Like, man, it's
he knows
one
his
of those.
place.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, exactly. Like to me, it's one of those things. You remove the blinders, you remove the context of who Jim Carrey is. I just look at that in a microcosm, and I wouldn't have known that he's also the same guy that did Ace Ventura and Spread His Butt Cheeks. You know what I mean? Like, that's the same guy.
Lend me your ears. I like that movie quite a bit. I actually like that second. I like that second Ace Ventura movie more than the first one. Actually,
I love them both. They're both
really funny,
absurdly stupid. But that's what makes them fun. And then here you get a very different Jim Carrey who gives one of the best performances of the 2010s.
Yeah, there was a tweet going around, I think about a week ago, that said, gun to your head, you will live if you're able to recite 90% of a movie. What movie are you picking? And I think I ended up picking Liar Liar. That was such a childhood favorite of mine, and that even includes the legendary moment where he gets pulled over by the police officer. Whatever I don't know if it was ad-libbed or not, but he says that all in one breath. I can recite most of that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Jim Carrey means so much to me growing up.
Yeah. Oh, I watched his movies religiously as a kid. Yeah. And I think that's what's, again, so much of the fun with Eternal Sunshine is that you grow up with those comedies and then you watch him in this and you're like, this is not the same person. There's no way.
And it works so much.
It works. It's great. Deeply, deeply love it. So yeah, my 2A, 1B, however you want to lay, or 1B rather.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Number one. What do you got at number one?
We've gone through this whole exercise, Judy, without any crossover. Will that stay the course?
You know, that's also fascinating.
Yeah.
Have we ever done a list with zero crossover? It's pretty rare,
I don't know.
it feels
Well,
like.
to be fair, we would have had some crossover had I not
That's
decided
true.
to
you chose
nix
to skip
Adam
out
Sandler.
on-
Yeah. But I wonder if this individual is on your list. If he is, that means he's your number one. But something tells me it might not be. I thought to myself, given the overall theme of this whole exercise and how many of these performances are kind of deconstructionistic in their own way, I wanted to try and go back and find who was maybe the source of that, who was one of the OGs at that type of self-aware, deconstructionistic type of performance for a comedian. So I decided to go to one of the OG cinematic comedians, and that is Charlie Chaplin. So my number one, 1952's Limelight, which is perhaps the first ever example, I guess, of one of these great comedians, one of these great performers, looking back on their career as a comedic presence and what that meant for them. Yeah, we've talked about Charlie Chaplin a lot, JD. We've done a whole series on this man, and we reviewed this movie. This is much later in his career, where he plays a character by the name of Calvero. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. But he's a fading comedian in this one. He strikes up a friendship with a ballet dancer, a suicidal ballet dancer. They each find purpose in their respective lives, given that friendship that they have together. But I kept thinking, like, all of these picks in my top 5 were actors looking back on themselves in some way, trying to almost create a commentary on what they were doing as comedic presences and what that meant for them and how that may have, devastated them as they got known for that. And Charlie Chaplin was kind of the first to do that in a way. So I felt like, just given that overall theme, I kind of had to give it to Chaplin, because without Chaplin's performance in this movie, and really without Chaplin in general, you don't get Jerry Lewis in The King of Comedy. You don't get Vince Vaughn in Brawl in Cell Block 99. You don't get Jim Carrey in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And I'm not even sure if this is Chaplin's best performance. I might argue that he's actually better in movies like The Great Dictator or City Lights or Modern Times. But I think this is the one that best fits the theme of what we're going for. Comedic performances that really turned a leaf to showcase a different side of them. And I love this performance in this movie for those reasons.
Oh my goodness, do I love this pick. Yes. Charlie Chaplin in Limelight is a phenomenal movie. It is one of his most heartbreaking films, an impeccable coda to his career. I love that it might not technically be a tramp film, but let's be honest, it's another tramp film.
It's the tramp in me, I suppose, JD.
Yeah, I love how the film is a commentary on his career, and it's brilliant. It's touching. I completely agree with everything you're saying. Charlie Chaplin is also my number one.
Okay, but it's not this movie, it sounds like.
But it's not Limelight. No, I'm going real OG here. I'm going real early. I'm going all the way back to 1921.
Oh,
I'm going with
the kid.
The Kid for my number one.
Oh, this is,
and I do think it's interesting that his first feature, obviously he had done a slew of shorts before The Kid, but his first feature, he comes out of the gate with this phenomenal performance where, of course, his comedic sensibilities are on display. But what I love so much about The Kid, I think it's as masterful as anything else he's ever done. It doesn't get the credit it deserves. People often go to City Lights or The Great Dictator, Modern Times, and understandably so. Those are also masterpieces. But The Kid deserves to be in that same conversation. And performatively, to the theme that we're discussing here, what I love about that performance is that it's equally a movie about parenthood. It's a movie about lost childhood. It's a movie about poverty and abandonment and guilt. And that film is deeply emotional.
Yeah.
The Kid is a heartbreaking movie in a lot of ways. And it absolutely slays me. Like, I just, and it's not often that you associate that kind of nuance with Chaplin. I mean, his films are deeply nuanced, don't get me wrong, but you always think about the comedy first. You think about those incredible gags and the choreographed set pieces in his movies, and those are excellent. It's why he's one of my very favorite directors of all time. He's on my Mount Rushmore, 100%.
Same here.
As a director, not let alone as a performer, just as a filmmaker. But performatively, I think he's equally worthy of being in that conversation for Mount Rushmore. And what he does in The Kid is among his best work, because while he has to display that level of craftsmanship and that comedic prowess, underneath all of that is this deeply affecting performance. It has this saddening quality that you don't always get, which makes sense if you go back and look at the context of when he made that film. Chaplin had tragically lost his infant son 10 days prior to the production of the film. So it is a personal film for him. It really, really is. And it comes through strikingly in that performance that I love, that I cannot get enough of. I mean, again, I cannot emphasize enough how blistering the emotion is of that film. Chaplin was easily, he was always going to be my number one. Which performance?
He's always number one in my heart, regardless of
always. But yeah,
we could talk about horror movies, and I'll find a way to include Charlie Chaplin on my list.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And it made things easy for me too, because again, as I noted, I was like, do I have Jim Carrey, Mary Tyler Moore? I went back and forth. Adam Sandler, like, do I go with him? Like, it made filling out the rest of my list easier when I was like, you know what? I'm just going to put Chaplin at one because he deserves that slot anyway.
Well, and he's kind of the first to do it, right?
Yeah, and he's the first to do it. Yeah. Again, I know you went to Limelight, which was what, 52?
Yeah.
But even going back to 1921, he was able to deliver such incredibly nuanced performances that were equally emotional and dramatic as they were funny. It's just why he's the best.
I think out of all of Charlie Chaplin's performances, the two that make the most sense for this particular topic that we're doing right here, it is The Kid or Limelight.
It's
I
definitely
feel like
those two.
Sure. Because I feel like these are the most self-aware with who he was as a performer and what he was trying to do differently. Because at that time with a movie like The Kid, you're right, he was primarily known for his shorts as a comedian, as not quite in the same vein as someone like Buster Keaton, but there was a stunt-like quality to his delivery, right? And here with The Kid, he gives the world what may have been the first ever form of cinematic pathos, right? And showcases a new side to what this type of performance could ultimately be. So, like, I don't know if these are his two best performances, I mean, you can argue any one of his performances is among his best for varying reasons. Maybe you can argue The Circus because that's his most acrobatic performance.
Sure.
I would say maybe City Lights is his most like rounded performance where it encompasses a little bit of everything that he does so well. I would say Modern Times is maybe his best effort as a director for sure. I think that definitely showcases the filmmaker of Charlie Chaplin the best than anything else here.
Fair.
But I think these two performances for the kid in Limelight represent the deconstructionist side of what it means for a comedic presence to try to do something different and showcase that they're more than just that. And I think they do it really well.
And I could understand the argument for The Great Dictator as well because of that speech. Like, again, you think about
maybe like the best acting moment in a Charlie Chaplin film.
Yeah, I mean, you think about how funny he is, and obviously his sight gags are like unparalleled. But you get that speech in that film that is highly dramatic, very emotional in its own right, and timeless, iconic. I mean, it's a speech you still hear a lot about now. So
absolutely.
I mean, just playing against type in a way, at least at that moment. I mean, that is still a very funny film. It's classic Chaplin up to that point.
It's classic Chaplin with dialogue, which made it slightly different. And then it all of a sudden becomes it becomes so unlike Charlie Chaplin.
So very different. Yeah. For sure.
I guess really the first time he really attempted to play against type was in 1947 with Monsignor Verdoux, which a more obvious and direct version of trying to play against type. I don't think quite as successful as some of these other ones, though.
I agree. At any rate, Chaplin, he's the best. We deeply, deeply love him. Honorable mentions. Anything else you want to touch on here?
Great question. Bill Murray, Lost in Translation.
That's my number 6.
Yeah, maybe my number 6 as well. I mentioned Jim Carrey, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind was your number 3, number 2, I think.
My number 2, yeah.
I don't remember numbers because you had everything ranked at first place anyway.
I messed it all up. Yeah.
Anyway, he's probably my number 7. I also would probably have Billy Crystal in When Harry Met Sally.
Okay.
It's a very subjective pick for me. I also really love Ben Stiller in the Meyerowitz Stories. I think that's actually his best performance as an actor.
That's a good call. Yeah.
I know Adam Sandler also very good in that one, but Ben Stiller especially I think is really good in that. Simon Pegg, obviously known for his comedic presence. I think he delivers a different side to that comedic presence in a movie like The World's End. So I want to call that one out as well.
Okay,
that
fair
might
enough.
be the best dramatic side of him for sure. Will Ferrell in Stranger Than Fiction. I know a movie that you also like quite a bit.
Yeah, that's a great honorable mention from you as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Whoopi Goldberg, The Color Purple.
Yeah, that's my number 10.
That's number 10. Okay. The last one I'll say here, and then I'll toss it back to you. Eddie Murphy in Dolomite Is My Name. I know a lot of people would probably cite Dreamgirls, and I know that makes a lot of sense. Maybe a more physical performance, but I think Dolomite Is My Name is a more challenging performance. So I wanted to highlight that one.
Yeah, the only other film in my top 10, because I noted I have Bill Murray at 6, Robin Williams at 7, Jerry Lewis, we already talked about at 8, and Whoopi at 10. At number 9, I have Jason Segel for The End of the Tour.
Ooh, that's a good pick. That's a great pick.
One I heavily thought about.
Okay, actually, I'm going to retroactively change my top 10 to include him. I actually blanked on him. Don't think he would have made my 5, but that's...
Yeah, I don't think he's making my 5, but very much in my 10 for sure.
I kind of forgot about that one. That's a great choice.
Yeah, one of my favorite performances of that year. He's really great. And then just to get through some of these quickly, I mean, you mentioned Meyerowitz Stories. I wanted to bring that up as well. With Bill Murray, Lost in Translation, but also Groundhog Day. I think it's a really great nuanced performance as well.
What's the other one with Jim Jarmusch? Broken Flowers?
Broken Flowers. He's great in that as well.
Yeah.
Kristen Wiig for Skeleton Twins was a nice little turn for her.
True.
Awkwafina and The Farewell, I thought about. Melissa McCarthy, Can You Ever Forgive Me?
Ooh,
Amy Schumer in Trainwreck. That almost made my top 10 to be perfect.
I was going to say, I saw that in your background.
I have that Blu-ray up. Look, I'm not an Amy Schumer fan in terms of her stand-up.
I'm not either.
I don't listen to it. I've never been a huge fan. I think she's excellent in that movie, though. I think she's really
it almost made me a fan of hers.
Gives a turn in that film that made me consider her for a moment. She's really, really great in that movie. Steve Carell in The Big Short is another one that came to mind. I also think he's awesome in A Beautiful Boy. I don't love that movie, but I think he's really, really good there. Okay. Stranger Than Fiction, wanted to highlight that one. As you noted, Vince Vaughn we brought up earlier. Albert Brooks in Drive, that came to mind. Also broadcast news. Marlon Wayans in Requiem for a Dream is a fascinating little turn.
Yeah.
John C. Reilly in Magnolia, I really love.
Yeah. Many you could say with him, many of which are, Paul Thomas Anderson films.
Yeah. Steve Coogan in The Trip to Spain and The Trip to Italy. I think those are
all the trips.
All the trips, really, yeah.
Yeah.
Patton Oswalt in Big Fan, I really quite love. Jack Black and Bernie, Jenny Slate in Obvious Child, I really love. Ray Romano in Paddleton from 2019. That's an underrated comedic performance.
That's a great performance.
He's really, really good.
That movie broke me when I saw it.
Yeah. He's also really good in The Big Sick as well. I would have to revisit that because I can't recall how if it's too comedic or not. I wasn't exactly sure. Paddleton for sure I know is extremely nuanced.
Oh yeah, Paddleton definitely goes more against type. But yeah, The Big Sick is more of a balance. There's more of a fusion happening there, I'd say.
But speaking of Kumail Nanjiani, that performance is really well balanced. I really love him in that. Will Forte, Nebraska came to mind. Jonah Hill in Moneyball. And then the last one I have on here is Dave Johns for I, Daniel Blake, a name that isn't quite familiar to us here in the States, but he's a big stand-up over in the UK, and that film is great. And again, very, very much against type for him.
Absolutely. Good choice.
So those all came to mind as well.
Very good choice.
If you agree or disagree with anything we had to say, you can leave a comment below if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky. You can always email us InSessionFilm@gmail.com. All right, as we wind down, I want to plug our InSession Film VIPs. We are going to have some Patreon bonus content this week, so you can be on the lookout for that. There's lots of film newsy things happening right now, and so there's a lot to talk about that we want to, kind of give our opinions on. So we're going to lots of random film things we're going to talk about. So you can be on the lookout for that. As I noted earlier in the show, we have a review for Tron Ares that's available. We also have a review for Derek Cianfrance's new film Roofman, starring Channing Tatum. That was a great conversation. New Women in Session coming, and new Chasing the Gold this week as well.
Yeah.
So you can be on the lookout for all of that. Lots happening. Dave and all the great writers doing good stuff over at InSessionFilm.com as well. Anything else, Brennan, before we get out of here?
Ooh, great question. Don't ask me about Penn State. That's how I'll end this conversation.
I will not ask Brennan about Penn State.
We've already talked about it offline. There's not much more you can ask about.
Yeah, I mean, I would have a lot of thoughts if I was you. But you are right that we have talked about it.
We have talked about it. It had to happen. It had to happen.
Yeah. With all that said, stay tuned for this weekend. We have a bunch of reviews coming out. What was it? It's is it this weekend? But next weekend is just going to be crazy.
I think next weekend is where we have 17 new movies coming out at once.
Yeah, we're going to have to figure out scheduling. It's going to be, there's lots of fun things on the horizon, which I'm very excited about because 2025 has been kind of a weird year overall. But I think we're now hitting that point where, we're going to get a lot of good stuff. I think
we got stuff. We got toys. Snowball. We have some new toys.
Exactly. I'm excited. All right. With that said, thanks everybody for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on the InSession Film Podcast.